Hi everyone, welcome to another AMA. We've been quite busy in the project in various ways over the past week, so we're looking forward to sharing some of the details of that and what's been going on. First and foremost, I'll hand you over to Herman. He's going to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the boiler room of the project with regards to development and strategic development also. Are you there at the moment, Herman?
Yes, thank you, Owen. And hello, everybody. I'll, as usual, try at least to keep it short. As you're all aware, the next milestone in the Cherry strategic roadmap is the launch of our EVM, so Ethereum Virtual Machine Compatibility Parachain. It's been a long time coming. We spent many months trying to improve what we had spent even more months last year trying to build in a more stealthy mode, seeking to improve compatibility, stability, and overall ease of use for an eventual launch. Now, these efforts sort of hit a roadblock as far as account unification goes, which I discussed or I described at some length a few AMAs ago. I won't go over too much what that meant, also because that very AMA I stumbled upon my words, so I'd like to avoid doing that again. But in the week since, we've done our best in chat explain how the EVM progress was going, and these issues we've encountered we've been trying to fix. Again, not so much as issues, but rather features we thought indispensable in an initial version and initial release of which we will call the EVM compatibility parachain. Now, particularly this account unification was complex. It involves dealing with cryptography. It involves deriving in a trustless fashion two different public keys from a same seed, one that is compatible with the substrate format of the Cherry chain, the Cherry network relay chain, and one that is compatible with the Ethereum format that is native, or at least an abstraction thereof is native to the EVM parachain. The issues were long and I don't think it's even worth discussing them. The issues involved matching these keys for consensus and for other features that are more essential than the feature itself, perhaps. But nonetheless, we endured and we tried to fix it. We tried to identify solutions and whatnot. I would say that we've done tremendous progress, because as we start off with improving functionality of this EVM compatibility product that had already sort of been built and done by December, we found new tweaks and new things to improve, among which the account unification, but that's certainly not all. So as we worked on integration, as we worked on improving and bringing this parachain product to market, or rather to mainnet, we've done, I'd say, pretty good progress, pretty good work in adding features and capabilities that perhaps not essential, but would add ease of use for people. So that's a bit of a retrospective. Everything is mostly done as far as what we wanted to do. And the one thing, and unfortunately upon which many others depend, that is sort of lagging, is the account unification. Now, I did my best to describe our thinking as far as what was the product, which is a compatibility layer for the Cherry network storage. What are useful and handy add-ons to this core product? It's called a feature set, such as RPC connections, an RPC connector, and others, without going into details but specifically. And these are sort of the approximate features you would desire of an EVM compatibility parachain like this one would be to Cherry Network's relay chain. And then there's a third sort of aesthetic layer. I wouldn't necessarily fit the account unification in this third category. I think it is a very useful feature, but nonetheless, the core product works regardless of whether accounts are unified or not. And looking back and fitting the features and the various tweaks and add-ons we've worked on over the past several months into one of these three categories, we've also done, I'd say, a fair job at assigning value to each of these three categories as far as priority, as far as what is a good enough product to release, while still delivering the technical promise that, at the very least, Cherry and the Cherry project, the Cherry team maintains and seeks to provide. Now, all that to say that the EVM as the bare bones product has been ready for several months. Add-ons and features are added, though some depend on others. And while the initial desiderata, the desired package we had set out to deliver is not ready, for reasons really beyond us. It is, as I said, a very complicated thing, and when we try to weigh business benefits to technical investments, we try and juggle that best we can. But we are fundamentally a technical team trying to deliver business value, so there is a bit of a conflict there. We, as far as I'm concerned, we could just spend the next few years working on these issues, of course. So that's not our main concern. And though these problems are interesting, and I think they'd be useful to solve for the industry at large, it's not really our business to try and solve them, given our more pressing business objectives are to deliver value to you, our token holders, and later deliver features and useful infrastructure systems to developers within the blockchain space. So as you can see, it's all very confusing, okay? I tried my best to elaborate our thinking, break down the distinction between core product, though the product is, again, an add-on to the Cherry network main objective with storage. And then distributing these features into categories of business value, if you will, that doesn't necessarily correlate with their ease of implementation. So a few days ago, we did this very same exercise of reasoning through all these moving bits internally, and not with any great authority. We didn't really decide this because we thought it was best, or because it was more practical, or because the problems we were facing were unachievable. I don't think any of these things are true. I suspect, I believe sort of heartfeltly, but without any practical reasoning behind, that the choices that I'm now going to elaborate to you make sense, though they will have other repercussions that perhaps are less desirable than any other alternative. Regardless, I think it's best to move forward, and I'll share with you how. And so, in the midst of all this conversation, in the midst of the analysis of the problems that, again, are tough to either explain or to comprehend the entity, unless you're developing them directly. In the case of account unification, it can be a problem that could be solved within a matter of hours or within weeks. We hoped it would have been weeks, but it turned out to be months. We now of things that don't work, and again, we're now back to square one and deciding whether it can be months, weeks, or hours for account unification specifically. To account unification, again, it depends other things. These other things don't necessarily have any tangible benefits in the very short run. And therefore, my goodness, this was a very long preamble, but these AMAs, the news I can share by text. It's a very succinct piece of news. I'm going to say it in about a minute. But these AMAs are really an occasion to showcase our thinking and elaborate these thoughts and express that these decisions that we set out, these news that we publish, aren't really the product of my personal whim. They're not any tool to deceive people or to manipulate people to take certain actions in respect to, say, our price. I frankly couldn't care less about short-term price movement, because I think the object of Cherry, and more specifically my role in Cherry as sort of the steward of this project, is to achieve its mission, where the mission is one that is set out in terms of years rather than bits or however you measure time in a short-term trading graph. And the benefits aren't whatever spread you manage to capture within a daily chart trading, but rather what we can bring to this growing multi-billion, perhaps trillion dollar industry of distributed internet, distributed storage. And so it's useful, in my opinion. And I could be wrong, and voice your opinions in chat, and I can answer these questions perhaps now or later to explain all this. And so, though your time you may think is wasted, certainly my time is valuable as far as I could be doing other things that add value to both myself and you people. I think it's a good exercise to go back and summarize and explain in the most transparent and comprehensible way the difficulties we faced, the solutions we've adopted, and the choices we've made in selecting these challenges to confront and picking the solutions to confront them with. All that said, to finally announce the release of our EVM compatibility parachain to be deployed on testnet within the next 4 days, or 5 days. I'm going to give us a very loose schedule on this. 5 days, I'd say, is a very comfortable schedule. If you want to be optimistic, as I often am, at least scheduling wise, I'd say we comfortably get this deployed by night. As though the overall thinking is useful to explain, but as I mentioned more practically, the EVM in its present form will lack account unification. We will explain to you guys what exactly this means technically, but also practically for people who want to use it. Together with this launch, we will release a list of tasks people can help us perform to test the EVM parachain, such as connecting to the RPC with your MetaMask or any other Ethereum compatible wallet like others.js. Deploy contracts, interact with contracts, and many other things. If you want another one that I think is frankly most exciting is using our brand new XMP route. And if you don't know what XMP is, I really do not have time to explain it now, but we will be releasing in conjunction with our EVM testnet, a whole brand new set of documentation that will explain this lingo and the undergirding principles that help us connect with parachains, broadcast messages across the relay chain network. So relay chain to parachain and parachain to the relay chain. And this XMP messaging system allows, among other things, and the other things will be explored later on, the transfer of Cherry tokens, of Cherry coins, the currency native to the Cherry network relay chain, from the relay chain to the parachain, and vice versa, such that the relay chain, though, usually would have its own separate currency, perhaps pegged to, but not necessarily one-to-one interchangeable with the base currency, such as the relationship is with Polkadot and any number of the coins of parachains deployed on Polkadot. This feature, XMP and other things, will allow the use of Cherry coins, the one unified currency in the relay chain, where you currently use it for staking, paying transaction fees, and so forth, and the parachain. I did send an announcement about this a few weeks ago. I don't know if you remember. You can go back on Telegram and see. I forget what it's called now. I'm guessing it's called P-Chair to distinguish it as a parachain representation of chair from the chair, which is proper to relay chain. But again, all these are technicalities. And so by hopefully tomorrow, but for sure within 5 days, so by Sunday, you will have our EVM parachain, EVM compatibility parachain deployed on testnet in its fullest form, minus account unification and a few features that depend on it. Updated documentation describing the principles leveraged to deploy this parachain. Some additional tools, such as the XMP channel to message information from relay chain to parachain and vice versa. And perhaps not immediately, but within a short order, a list of tasks. We will certainly associate some sort of bounty, some sort of rewards for performing these tasks so that we can, as a community, help validate this EVM parachain and test its sturdiness, its stability, and hopefully, if everything goes well and we try and find things and everybody participates, get this EVM parachain that would currently be deployed on testnet as quickly as possible, deployed on our mainnet. And again, I think the order of time there is can be plus or minus several weeks. I think usually we take about 6 weeks when it comes to, or we estimate about 6 weeks, when we deploy anything on testnet before we deploy it on mainnet. So thank you for listening. Hopefully what you got out of this is, or if you just woke up from me rambling for the past 20 minutes, that there is plenty of intellectual power, perhaps too much, devoted to making these choices on your behalf. And while we may not always be right, we do our very best tackling and assigning values to things, perhaps despite our such that we can both excel technically, but also deliver real value, real business value in a competitive environment, and deliver value to you, our token holders. And you, hopefully, who are also listening and haven't logged out, developers looking forward to using our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Herman. That was quite encouraging. I think I have one question. If you're not, I presume you're quite busy at the moment with regards to everything that's going on and the progress being made. I did have one question from Pericles, our friend Pericles, who asked, and this is far beyond my technical ability to answer. In the commits of the EVM repository, the text Moonbeam and Pure Stake appear. Can you possibly explain briefly what way or what the architecture of Cherry's EVM is like, and how these players complement the Cherry project?
So I've been talking for 25 minutes, and I did say I was going to be brief. This is not a question I would answer briefly. Unfortunately, guys, I always trick myself into thinking that I can be succinct, especially answering these technical questions. I seldom am. The EVM parachain is a fork, again, as succinctly as possible, of Frontier. Frontier is something that you can look it up. Just Google it, Frontier substrate. Pure Stake fits into this. Moonbeam does fit into this, as Moonbeam is the most complex and advanced implementation here. Within the open source environment, of course, everything is borrowed, everything is improved collectively across projects without any particular competition as far as base principles. Of course, we do try and differentiate as far as more advanced functionality. But when it comes to base principles, when it comes to things that have been replicated and established, we try and be quite scientific and carry on established traditions, established tropes that have been seen to work elsewhere, and that is another way of explaining our relationship with these two projects mentioned. But without getting into the details, because I could go on describing the technical side of this relationship, I won't. I will refer you instead to the documentation that should be online by the end of the week, again, in conjunction with our EVM release.
Thanks, Herman. I think, some of these questions are maybe not the best material to be discussed in an AMA, because we would be getting into the weeds in terms of how these things work and stuff like that. So good question all the same. Thank you, Pericles. And thank you, Herman. That was a very interesting AMA. I think that despite the fact that you went over lots of things, I think it was, in fact, quite to the point and pretty clear in terms of what was the message to be conveyed. And it was quite nuanced while also being transparent. I would say that this kind of clears up some questions that people had with regards to the timeline of the EVM release in terms of when things could be expected, when things were expected, what kind of delays were involved. The simple answer is that the EVM has actually been ready for quite a while, months in fact, I suppose you could say. The other aspects, such as the account unification that Herman has spoken about for quite a while now, which would kind of match what he explained as being the causes for delays, that in the past couple of months, the account unification problem, which is a new problem, so to speak, it is a problem that hasn't been solved by any other researchers or developers. As Herman said, it involves going into the nitty-gritty of the cryptographic elements to this issue. And I suppose it's worth mentioning that we have quite talented and seasoned and also experienced, transparently and obviously experienced developers and senior researchers with a long CV of successes in this field. And together they work on these complex problems that can't really be, this is the nature of technology. It's almost like if you were to, in the 18th or 19th century, try and estimate how long it would take to navigate parts of northern Canada which hadn't been explored before, then you could have a fair idea how long that would take. Whereas if you were leaving Spain or Portugal in the late 16th century, aiming to go to India, then it's very hard to estimate what's going to happen, because when something is a new and novel problem and something is very kind of on the cutting edge of where we are going in terms of cryptographic and Web3 problems, then even small issues can't really be estimated in terms of, because the complexity can increase exponentially. I think it was a good idea for the team to, from my pretty uneducated standpoint, it was a good idea to try and shoot for having these extra bells and whistles and this extra degree of usefulness in the EVM launch. But I understand why at a certain point some things have to be possibly left a little bit longer, or put on the long finger somewhat. But yeah, if these things are cutting edge issues, and you're just sailing out into the ocean with the fair idea of where you're going, but not really 100% sure of all the obstacles that will manifest themselves in the meantime, then it's quite understandable that some of these things get delayed. The flip side of this is that we have, from the early days of the project, told you guys that we were trying to solve new problems. We're trying to focus on things that are going to be of immediate relevance, not only from a business standpoint, but also of general use to the wider industry in terms of staking out new ground in the Web3 sphere. And I think the founders have managed to balance both those pursuits quite well. And from our perspective, people that are involved in the community and in the project, to whatever degree, it's better for us to be involved with such a project. I think this is what people are interested in. They're interested in a project that could really go a very long way in terms of what it can achieve. That is staking out new ground in technology in Web3, because I think that people realize that that is where the most interesting things happen, not least in terms of the returns that can be accrued for investors, for people involved in the project, etc. So the fact that the team are coming up against all these unexpected sea monsters of problems in the course of going from A to B, I think that that's actually, excuse me, I think that's actually more of a credit to the team than an admonishment. I think that that's a sign that it's proof that the team are undertaking things that haven't been done before. And I believe that most of you would agree that we think that that is where the most value will lie in the long term in an industry that Herman correctly described as having a really, really large potential in the near, medium, and long term futures. So that's why we're involved in Cherry, because all these things tend to come up. To recap what Herman said, it's good news because they've set a firm time scale over the next few days, this week, as to when all these things will be released. Not just the EVM testnet functionality, but also the documentation, the tooling, and of course, for the community, most interestingly, the list of bounty tasks, which we will be explaining to you guys, and we'll be publicizing and stuff like that. So it's going to be a busy week for all of us at Cherry. As Herman said, somewhere in the measure of 6 weeks, this, depending on, again, these other unknown unknowns which might come up, but certainly within 6 weeks, then this will then be deployed on the mainnet proper, and that's when. And in the meantime, we've got plenty of other things to be working on from the business side and from the other aspects of the project and ecosystem initiatives as well. So it's all quite promising. I have only realized, you might be able to hear it, but I've been kind of sick the past 10 days or so. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to. Unfortunately, I haven't been able, or I actually forgot. I thought I had posted the AMA recap of last week, but I didn't. I was sure I had posted it, so sorry guys. I was just a bit that was a bit careless of me. To make up for it, I will be recapping this AMA. I have a call after this one, and then I'll be recapping the AMA this evening. So at the latest, maybe late this evening, we will have the recap out. I'll try and do it in the right level of detail so that you guys can really sink your teeth into it. Anybody who wasn't able to join, anybody who wasn't able to follow for whatever reason, we can expect that later today. Again, sorry about earlier, or sorry, last week when I was sure I had posted that. And I'll include all of the details and milestones that Herman explained as well. I saw a question from Marcelo. Hi, Marcelo. What is the marketing plan to raise the knowledge and adoption of Cherry after EVM implementation in production? So that actually leads me on to the next kind of thing I'm talking about. So that there's no one way to market something. It's not actually a good idea to put all of your resources and time and energy into one specific thing. There are many different ways we're approaching this. As Herman spoke about last week, we are examining, and I think you can see this in my slides that are up on your screen, I believe. We are looking at the ways that Well, first and foremost, over the past week, I've been when I was able to get out of the house because as I said, I'm kind of sick. But we've been attending various developer and Web3 meetups in various countries around Europe. Some of you might have even bumped into us, conferences and the like, meet and greets, this kind of thing. In tandem with that, will be a number of other things that we're doing to specifically uh, target developers. Indirectly, reaching developers will be done through, I suppose you could call it mass marketing, just in terms of generic social media marketing, etc., public relations, and this kind of thing. Also, as Herman discussed with you, and as I did as well last week, we're also looking at um, how to establish a release cycle of sorts that will maintain a good tempo of things being launched within the ecosystem and within the core Cherry offering itself, and how to keep people's attention and keep the kind of interest in Cherry building, while also resolving that and balancing that with actually making sure that we're delivering important and useful things. As Herman said himself, it might be in some ways more useful for the from the pure technical perspective to go and simply put their heads down and work on developing all these things, which over the next couple of years. But that's not really how you guys want us to proceed and how we should proceed at all. We don't want to proceed that way either. We want to give a good impression of the project and to deploy things that have an immediate use for people as well, for developers, etc., to keep the ecosystem taken over and things like that, because that will keep the momentum going behind the wider project. So balancing those two things is what we're doing in the planning of this new release cycle. I can't think of a proper term for it, but this is what Herman said he was discussing last week with partners, and I'll be discussing that with them as well over the next couple of days. That will time well with the EVM release and the bug bounty, etc. So expect more of the kind of things that we've been doing around different releases. We're also going to focus more on developers, and then we'll focus indirectly on developers as well through mass marketing, the kind that we've been doing before. So that's kind of a good and simple answer to your question, Marcelo, I think. So there are a number of other items that I wanted to cover in the business update. As I said, we've been taking part in conferences in different parts of Europe over the past couple of weeks. It's gone quite well. People are very interested, especially when you're talking to VCs and developers who really know their stuff. They see that these are some of the technical problems that have been faced by smart contract developers, for example, for a very long time. And this is something that Cherry is addressing, and that people can actually see the use case for Cherry, which is something that I know some members of our community maybe haven't fathomed enough, or would have some kind of uncertainties about. So I can just reiterate the fact that when from our industry perspective and speaking to other people in the industry, they do see this as an important use case to be addressed. So I'm glad that we have something that there is demand for. I already mentioned the scheduling and the new kind of ramp up of things we can do now that EVM on testnet is launching. That includes the bounties and the hackathons I mentioned this week and last week, respectively. There's also been a couple of things that we've decided to do. This is mainly community focused in terms of updates about tokenomics and some of the thinking behind that, just to clear up any doubts that people have. And as Herman mentioned, there's a lot of dev resources that will go in tandem with the EVM on testnet release, which is happening as we speak. Unfortunately, as I said, I was quite sick last week, and there was an issue with getting things done on Twitter. I'm going to take another bash at it, and we're going to try and get a Twitter space going for this Friday. I don't see why there should be any problems with that. If it can't work on Twitter, then we will definitely do it on the on the um, on the Telegram channel for sure. Or no, sorry, probably Discord is better. Discord. We'll do it on Discord again. We had fun last time we did it, and it was actually useful for the team. So I'll update tomorrow evening in about 24 or so hours about what's going to happen then. Anyone who can join in and help us out, that would be much appreciated. In terms of integrations, as I mentioned, there's I think I don't want to exactly say the number, but it's quite a few projects that are either on the larger and more established side or are on the smaller and will have very strong potential. We think that in terms of a portfolio of partners to integrate with, that is a good diversified option because that provides us with the upside of these promising new projects while also having the kind of reliability of the larger partners. So that's what we're focusing on in terms of business development. That's going to get a bit of a shot in the arm now that we have the EVM launched or launching on testnet. So then next week, I'm hoping that we'll be able to share more details of partnership announcements. Let's say by the next AMA. I think that would be a good time. I'm going to leave it there. I think we have Diego and Marvin are here to share details about Seedling and Cherish, respectively, with you guys as usual on Wednesdays. Thank you for bearing with me over the past 20 minutes or so that I've been speaking. Apologies if you can't hear me too well. As I said, I'm kind of sick, so my voice isn't as I'm sorry if you haven't been able to hear everything that I've said perfectly, but I'm hoping to be better and right as rain by next week. In the meantime, I'll see if either Diego or Herman or sorry Marvin want to jump in.
Hello, guys. Yeah, I can jump in.
Cheers.
Yeah, hello, guys. It's very good to be here again another Wednesday. This week I have engaged actually with some of you in the Spanish chat. I really wanted to thank those of you that have been believing in our work, and even though there's not too many projects for you to profit from, are super committed and giving feedback and very helpful. Also mentioned to you guys the great opportunity we have and how a very small push in Seedling would affect directly those that have invested into our project. The low cap altcoins are always associated with very high risks, and it is okay and fair to say so. But really, Seedling has very great fundamentals, and even though there is currently very low interest in the pre-sale market, we are well aware that if any of our negotiations that are being managed right now are to be successful and an agreement is closed and put in place, the exposure to Seedling would be enormous, and the potential for growth of the project would be really exponential. So to recap what I mean by the negotiations, and as I've been saying for the last month, is the already mentioned three ecosystems we are in negotiation with. Two of them are upcoming chains that are not running yet. Therefore, they are still choosing the dApps they want to have running on their ecosystem. I'm aware one of them has only 3 launchpads that have asked to be part of their ecosystem, one of them being built natively there, and 2 other launchpads, including us, already built in other chains. So that is wonderful news. Another chain which everyone in crypto is aware of or should be aware of has been delaying the answer for us. They are and have been running since 2020 and have established itself as one of the biggest and most reliable chains with huge TVL on its ecosystem. So hopefully we have more concrete news about this one or the others for the negotiation. Following this, our update of the project pipeline has led us to doing loads of work on the reviewing side of projects. We currently have, let me actually check the pipeline just to give a realistic overview. One second, guys. But yeah, the projects we have established contact with in the last 24, 48 hours. Yeah, here. Okay, so we have Blue Meta, an NFT aggregator on Tethos, StarLive Metaverse project that recently received a 1.2 million grant from the German government. We have Double Protocol, an NFT renting platform with strong backers. We have Crypt AI, which I'm sure you're all well aware of. They're launching very soon, so they have their IDO rounds in the next couple of hours, so might be a bit late. We've been talking to SoonSwap. They have huge community and they're finishing negotiations with DAOmaker and Polkastarter, and hopefully they have allocation for us. Yeah, we have many more. We have Konyan, AR, Tonan, Immunity Live, Gain Hive, Playtig, etc. So I don't usually like to give out, names, but just to give you guys an overview of the amount of projects in the pipeline right now we've contacted and that we are and still have to review their documentation, their tokenomics, the whole proposal, the investment details, and of course their marketing support towards our platform. One user actually mentioned that it would be difficult to launch right now on many launch pads if you don't reach certain thresholds for the race or minimum tickets, which again is true, and that is why we engage only with projects that will not leave us alone in the whole task of fundraising, but also help us to bring people on board and show the benefits of getting in through Seedling, as again it's one of the lowest barrier to entry platform and the most affordable way of investing in this kind of pre-sales, right? And then finally, and as usual, once a month we will publish the newsletter with everything we mentioned on the last couple of weeks. Again, guys, the best you guys can do as a community, as always, is support all pieces of information we publish. This week we won't cover, the names of the projects being reviewed, like those mentioned earlier on, or those we covered during the weekend or on Monday, since there is no point in talking just about those projects or those things that are not 100% going to happen, but maybe we'll cover on a more strategical level our thoughts for the project, for Seedling, and how to overcome the problems and how to grow the project. So yeah, guys, that is all. I'll leave you to Owen or Marvin.
Thanks, Diego. That's fantastic, and it is great to hear all of the good connections that the Seedling team have been making with various promising projects. I'll hand you over to Marvin now, and he'll give us an update with regards to Cherish, and then we have the quiz coming at the end.
Hey guys, thank you very much, guys. Great to be back. Wasn't here last week, but I saw that John did an amazing job covering for me. Here, get again with your weekly Cherish update. If you've kept an eye on the chat, you'll be able to see our latest creator spotlight with Eves, a really talented artist who has joined the ranks of Cherish Insider Creator, and will be going forward. He'll be helping us out with his insights on what a creator focused network should be. Then limited access testing has commenced. Actually, I'll say a word more about this. We'll be doing this in 2 rounds or a couple more if we want to reiterate. First of all, we get some creators on board or some volunteers on board who will start posting a lot of content on the website and giving us feedback on every step that they take. We've prepared a plan for them. Once they have gone through and posted all the content, we'll get a lot of volunteers to go through that content, mess around with everything they have. We'll give them some imaginary tokens or imaginary money so they can start buying stuff out there without withdrawing, of course, and test out how everything works on the website, and we can dig out any bugs that may arise. So that's something that's ongoing right now with the creators starting just about now to get their hands on this limited access version. Then other than that, development continues on the other features in the back, the developers are working very hard to make sure that everything is polished. Then Cherish update number 10 is on the way with a bit more focus on algorithms and how they impact daily lives of people unknowingly. So be on the lookout for that. Lastly, I'd like to say that onboarding continues. We're always getting in touch with new creators who are interested in a platform like Cherish to really get their hands on and um, explore the possibilities of the future of decentralized social media. I think that's about it for me. I'll leave you with Owen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Marvin. Great as always to hear from you and the good things that are going on in Cherish and all the work that you are doing behind the scenes. Sounds like things are moving along quite well there. So cheers for that. I'm going to leave you over now to John, who has some cool questions for the next quiz. I will speak to you guys on Friday. Anyone I don't speak to on Friday or through the week, then please have a nice Easter if you celebrate it. If not, have a nice weekend. If you don't like weekends, then there's nothing I can do for you. But I'll speak to some of you guys on Friday. I'll share the details of that, whether it's a Twitter space or a Discord space that we're going to have on Friday. Got some cool things to probably work on then. And as I mentioned, I'm going to work now after my next call on some work on the AMA recap and have that over to you as soon as I can. So thanks very much, guys, and have a nice day.